Scott, this is an interesting one. Footage of a canceled 10-year-old sci-fi Call of Duty developed by Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Studios Neversoft has leaked online. This is often something.
Remember Neversoft?
Oh yeah, rest. I'd say rest in peace, but they're still around. Like it's an interesting thing to see that some of this stuff, like, man, this is 10 years plus. Where did that go? We often hear about games getting canceled, they get scrapped all the time. Obviously, this kind of fell into that wheelhouse. But it's man, I love seeing behind the scenes. I'm a huge fan of that.
You like to think the Call of Duties are never canceled or put on the shelf, but there is ancient mythology of a Roman Call of Duty game, so they're out there. They do get canceled.
This is 10 Lynchfield over at PC Gamer. First spotted by Charlie Intel, 2 videos supposedly from a canceled Xbox 360 era Call of Duty game called Future Warfare, or NX1, internally have been shared on Twitter. That's right. It's seemingly been confirmed by a former senior Neversoft developer who worked on the project. The first video was shared by an account with the handle Magna Figurines. So there's that. And shows a first-person cinematic sequence where the player's spacesuit is breached on the surface of the moon and they have to flee into a nearby base while under attack. Scott, you and I checked out the video. This is actually kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, this is really cool to me because I can kind of see where some of the pieces of this one were experienced in Ghost.
Yeah.
It appears that this was kind of the first test of do we want to go future? And they kind of had to rewrite and go for a slightly futuristic and advanced warfare. But that and Ghost, it's really interesting to see the kind of zero gravity or low gravity kind of movement.
Yeah. And then the second video shared by Twitter user Cat Girlfriend reports NX1 multiplayer in a map with a ruined desert town theme. The player switches between a dual Glock 18 pistols, pretty standard in the Call of Duty side, and a far more interesting futuristic DMR looking rifle. The moon-based video especially strikes me as being too high quality to be a convincing mod, but the most compelling supporting evidence for this comes in Brian Bright, a Neversoft developer who worked on Guitar Hero and 2013's Call of Duty Ghost. Neversoft is most famous as the developer for the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. Interesting enough, right? It's funny how they all just been gobbled up and told to work on Call of Duty stuff. Man.
Yeah,
but
that explains a lot of companies.
Unfortunately, later taking up work with Guitar Hero and Call of Duty before ultimately merging into Infinity Ward in 2014. So, yeah, like they're still around, but they've been more just gobbled up into more Call of Duty development. Regarding the moon-based video, Bright commented that NX1 was Neversoft's first experiment with the Call of Duty engine after the studio was pulled off Guitar Hero to work on the series. Quote, Neversoft pivoted from Guitar Hero to make the futuristic Call of Duty game, end quote, Bright wrote. Quote, this mission was on the moon, some experiments with low gravity, and was really about the team learning the engine. I believe this would have been in place of Ghosts. Trying to remember. We had 2 to 3 campaign missions and a bunch of multiplayer work done. I was multiplayer lead on this before cancellation, end quote. But Bright further mentioned that the multiplayer map in the second clip may have been named Sandstorm, and that NX1 would have included an escort game mode years before we saw something similar in 2020's Black Ops Cold War. Scott. Ahead of its time, it seemed like, and then they scrapped it. Wonder why.
Yeah, I really wonder what I think it was just a rejection of the futuristic kind of thing. Call of Duty drifting into science fiction. Yeah, it wasn't really well received at the time. But for that to go to Ghosts, it's really interesting to see the kind of playing they were doing with the low gravity. And in Ghosts, you will see there's fighting on a space station and you release out of a shuttle. Things I really cheered for that I didn't expect to ever see in a Call of Duty. So I'm glad there is some experimentation happening behind the scenes at some point.
They do have to branch out a little bit, right? Do you think we'll ever see a full-on sci-fi experience for Call of Duty?
I think certainly there is Infinity Warfare. I didn't stick all the way through Infinity Warfare, as did most of the fan base, but I really liked what it kind of tried to do there, and I think there's room for it. I'm a big fan of Titanfall, though, so of course I'm going to like futuristic.
Yeah, rest in peace, Titanfall, man. That's we'll see if we ever get that one. But yeah, like this was where I think Call of Duty could branch off. But do fans want that? I think this is the other thing, right? And this is maybe why they scrapped this and went for Ghosts. And then when people got Ghosts, dude, people were like, I don't know about this either. So you never quite know
watching the trailer, you asked me, is it aliens? Are we shooting at aliens back? And no, I don't believe so. But that would be an incredible idea. But if you did that, I think that would reject most of the fan base because you're getting away from what is Call of Duty in most people's eyes.
Yeah.
And to myself, it started with World War II. It does feel a little bit strange to go 100 years plus into the future.
You think about it, right? It's been around for so long. How do they keep changing up the formula that's going to rejuvenate fans and have them excited to come back into the next yearly cycle of Call of Duty? But man, they seem to do it each and every year. It's still a juggernaut title. Even when it doesn't do well, it still does well numbers, right? Like even Vanguard. Not a lot of people like Vanguard, but it's still sold. And then the following year was just a massive surge of Call of Duty fans back again with these remakes going on and things like that, right? So is that what they do? Do they go back? Dude, I was there on day one, back in the day on PC, playing those Call of Duty World War II titles and all that kind of stuff. That's how
Finest hour.
Oh, right? And then all of a sudden, it changed. But they have to do something to keep changing. And everybody's like, can we go back to World War II? I'm like, man, do we have to? And then like I think there's a division of fans, right? Some want it, some don't. So what do they do? And then they get into sci-fi. Is that just pushing the boundaries a little too much for what people know for Call of Duty? So yeah,
I think it is. Yeah,
it might be.
I'm so tired of going back to World War II. Now we're coming up on 100 years almost since World War II happened. But I really do want to go back in one instance for Call of Duty Big Red 1, Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. I hope that's up on the remaster list for them someday.
I get that, absolutely. I'm a Black Ops fan. I love the Black Ops side
me too.
of it all, right? It's my preferred Call of Duties. And man, I thought they're so well crafted and so well espionaged kind of setting, right? So I love that setting. I love that timepiece. And just, man, it just fires on all cylinders for me. So, but we'll see. Call of Duty, not going anywhere.